Don't forget to subscribe to the Retire Young podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. If you're just tuning in, Al was shedding some light on retirement and retirement accounts, but also retirement strategies that the institutions or the successful investors use prior to, but also during retirement. There's different techniques that you can utilize and what they do to create income and what they also do to protect and ensure their portfolios. And I want to kind of continue that discussion, Al, as we get into this last segment here. But trading and investing, I want to dissect this real quick here. Trading and investing is as easy as funding an account and going and placing trades. That's the downfall, because anybody can do that, right? But most people jump into the financial markets without learning how to do it first. I mean, think about this. I mean, a doctor is not going to just go do surgery right away. A pilot is not going to just go and fly a plane right away. They're going to learn how to do it first. But I don't understand why so many people jump in the markets without learning first. So let's talk about that for a second. How can the average investor, and what are some of the steps that we can do to maybe create a plan and have proper rules within that plan?
Yeah. Well, I think you really hit on what's important there. It is easy now for anybody to participate in the market. That's a great thing, but it's also a bad thing because, and unfortunately, a lot of people that participate don't know what they're doing. They basically, especially with what's been happening with this market, is we've been in the longest bull market in history. And remember this, folks, that in a bull market, everybody's a genius, but not so much in a bear market. And bull markets don't last forever. So there's a necessity of understanding how to participate in different market conditions, how to protect what you have. But number one, I guess to simplify it, just number one, learn how to trade. And then number two, learn what to trade.
And Al, I want to clarify something real quick, that we talk a lot about the institutions or the successful investors, right, or the pros. Us as people or retail investors, we don't have to be a pro. We want to trade like them, and that's the key.
Right, yeah. Well, this is the truth is that companies like Goldman Sachs, they go to schools like Harvard, and they hire the MBA that was at the top of their class, and then they put these people through training programs where they spend millions of dollars on training them. So here's one choice that you have. You can go to Harvard, you can get an MBA, be at the top of your class, graduate, work for Goldman Sachs for years while they're training you to be the best, or you can just copy them. And that's the great thing, and that's how we try to simplify this is that just copy the people that are really smart and are successful in these markets. And fortunately for us, that's available to us, and that's what our strategy does. It shows you how to identify where they're doing what they're doing. Why they're doing what they're doing isn't that important, but it's where they're doing what they're going to do, when they're going to do it. That's all part of a proper education. And that proper education, it should include a couple of things. It's not just knowledge. You have to have the knowledge, obviously, but there's a lot of very smart people out there with a lot of knowledge that aren't very successful. It's because they don't have the skills to apply that knowledge, and that's the important thing. And that's something that you don't just read about, and that's something you build on. You create that over time by repeating things that are successful.
And that's why, it's important to these investing classes that you teach to understand, to hear it and see how that works.
Correct. Yes. And that's really what we want to try to get across in these classes is this something that you have an interest in? If your financial world is something that you want to be involved in, make sure that you have that interest, and then look at how we approach the markets, what our strategy does, how we teach, and see if this is a good fit for you. That's what these classes are for. And our goal really is to instill confidence in people. And this is something, if you're going to be an investor or trader, you want to do it with that confidence. And it's a combination of understanding, again, how the markets function. When we talk about that, what we're really talking about is what changes price, because that's the most important thing. If you're going to be in any kind of a trade or investment, the goal there obviously is to get a profit from it, to maximize the profit. And to be able to do that, the best way is to have a low-risk entry with the high profit potential, but then also the highest probability of achieving that profit potential. And the way that we approach these markets is by looking at where the turn in price is, because that's where trends start. Then you need to identify, again, where the trend starts. How long is this trend going to go? Where is the trend? Where's the end of the trend? Are we now in the middle of it, near the beginning, near the end? Those are all things that are important. But the origin of any move in price is where that supply and demand that we talked about in the first session is out of balance. That is out of balance when when big players take a position or exit a position. And just because you identify an area that looks good, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're all good. We help our students by helping them qualify, basically grade or evaluate every supply and demand position that you see on a chart. We teach people how to read a chart very much like a radiologist would read an X-ray or an MRI.
And it's all about, you talk a lot about supply and demand. And really what that comes down to is buying at wholesale prices and selling at retail. I mean, think about it. If anybody goes to the grocery store to buy a loaf of bread, nobody is going to look at that loaf of bread and say, that loaf of bread is at $3.90. I don't even know what a loaf of bread costs anymore, Al. But let's just say it's at $3, right? They're not going to say, I'm going to wait till it goes to $4 and buy more. They're going to say, I'm going to wait till it goes down to $2. And then buy 5-6 loaves. I mean, that's the whole buying at wholesale and then sell it maybe at retail prices.
Yeah, it's the funny, or not funny, but ironic thing is that in the market when that happens, people are afraid. It's like when the bread goes on sale for $2, they were running out of the store screaming, "Get me out of here! I don't want to do that." And that's in the markets. That's when people should be looking at actually putting positions together at wholesale prices. And then at retail prices, that's where the profit is. That's where, and people do the opposite because of the emotions that we have as human beings.
Yeah, and it's just doing things a little bit differently. None of this is new. It's just a little different. So, Al, we talk a lot about how wholesale, retail, what that whole concept is, but really supply and demand. Al, there's some different qualities, or we'll just say characteristics that we like to see. I mean, you like to seek that out in people when they're coming to these investing classes. So let's talk about some of the qualities that we feel is good to be a trader or investor.
Well, in any education for anything, number one is the ability to have an open mind and to listen to what the people that are teaching, whatever the class is that you are attending, that teaches, because typically those are people that know what they're talking about. So having an open mind is being coachable, I guess is the right word to use there. And then, so that's important. Just listen to what people that have experience in these markets, what they're saying. And then number two is have the discipline to follow the set of rules. We talked about rules, talked about a step-by-step process. This has already been created, but it is actually, it's specialized for you because everybody is going to have their own little nuances, their own strategies or goals or expectations. So this should be specialized to you, but have the discipline to follow that plan then that is for you. And then you have to have the ability to be decisive. And that's the key. You can have all the knowledge and all the skills in the world, but if you never push a button on a mouse or on your computer to make a trade, you'll never get anywhere. So it's being decisive, but that comes with the confidence. Once you have used something and you realize that on a consistent basis that is working, that gives you the confidence then, and that decisiveness really doesn't become an issue.
That is the key of this whole show, Al, is becoming more comfortable, but also confident, making better investing decisions. So, Al, I really pumped you up last week and talked about that, the years of wisdom you have, and you really hit some good words of wisdom last week. And we've had some hot weather lately. I need to hear it this week.
Okay. Josh, too often people talk themselves out of exploring opportunities because they just convince themselves there's little chance they can succeed. The truth is you can't succeed unless you try. We talk ourselves out of opportunities all the time when we ought to be talking ourselves into them.
And that's the key. There's the definition of poor. That's passing over opportunities regularly. I mean, everybody has a different starting point. The most important thing is to get started. Al, we got a couple days till next week, and we got to get ready for this next show. We're going to talk a lot about next week, the 401k and retirement strategies, but different ways that the institutions and the successful are utilizing these financial markets. Don't forget to subscribe to the Retire Young podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Until next week with the Retire Young radio show, retire young, my friends.